In today's video, how much creatine is too much? Why do people take steroids? Which cutting diet is the best cutting diet? And what are some of my all-time best lifts? These questions and more. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Arbella from ProPhysique.com, and today I got a fun video for you guys. I'm going to talk about all kinds of things, from diets to bulking to lifting to steroids to all the questions that my friends over at Wekiva High School had. My client, Miriam Jenkins, hi Miriam, told me that she's actually been showing my videos as educational material in her weightlifting class, and so I really want to help support that and give you guys some answers to your questions. So I appreciate you guys being curious. I think the most important thing that you can do is ask questions, get answers, and don't trust everything you hear. So trust, but validate. So the first question I got was, what is the best way to be the most consistent with your diet? This is a great question, and I think when you hear the answer, it's going to make a lot of sense. But the best way that you can be efficient with your diet is just to plan your meals ahead. A lot of us, myself included, for the greater part of my life, just tried to figure out what I wanted to eat in the moment. My parents would make me some meals. I would come home and I would eat lunch, eat dinner. I would eat whatever the school was serving. And you guys are obviously probably in that position. However, as you get a little bit older, you're going to find that you've got control of your meals, right? And so what you can do is plan ahead. This is going to do a few things. It's going to save you time. It might not sound like it, but by planning your meals ahead, you're not always wandering around wondering what to eat. It's going to save you money because you're not going to wait until you're hungry and then go through a drive-through, and it's going to help you stay on track better. So cooking in bulk, making things like proteins and carbs, buying things that you like to eat with frequency, and just having a plan for a day, a few days ahead of time so that you're not wondering what you're going to eat. That is the best way. What is a good bulking diet? So the idea of bulking has been around for a long time. When I was young, the idea for me was I just wanted to see the scale go up. Guys, I'm 6'3", 215 pounds. I graduated high school at 155 pounds. Yes, I was a beanpole. So all I cared about when I got out of high school and into college and when I was a young adult with a job was I wanted to see that scale go up. For me, a bulking diet was literally just eating enough food to keep up with my calorie expenditure. Now, I played baseball in college. I played basketball in college. I played volleyball every free second I got. I didn't sit still. It wasn't until I got an office job that I actually started to put on some body fat. So a bulking diet, you have to remember, has to be enough calories that you are in a caloric surplus that you're able to gain weight. Now, for a lot of people, that means eating junk, but I promise you, you don't want to just put on body fat. So make sure you're hitting at least a minimum amount of protein. Make sure that if you are bulking, you are training in the gym, doing some resistance training or training for a sport, so that you're getting the benefit of some added performance and some added muscularity. And ultimately, bulking can just come down to using some low cost food sources that are easy to get. You know, adding things like rice and pasta. Pasta is great because it has carbohydrates and protein in it. It's also very low cost, very easy to make, and very easy to store. What is the best home workout? Man, this is really going to come down to your goals. Ultimately, I think when you're very new to training, full body workouts are great, right? You don't need to be doing too many exercises per body part. So if I was going to train at home with a beginner, I might just have one day for all upper body, one day for all lower body, okay? I'm going to suggest you focus mostly on big compound movements, okay? So when you're at home, you want to be doing things like compound movements like shoulder presses, bench presses, okay? You want to be doing some deadlifts, maybe some barbell squats, maybe some bent over rows. As you get more into lifting and you can handle more training volume and it's required, you can break up those body parts. You can do something called a push pull legs routine, where on your push day, you're doing things like chest, shoulders, and triceps. On your pull day, you're doing back and biceps. And on your lower body day, you're doing hamstrings and quads and some glutes and some calves, right? So you start to individualize a little bit and you start to specialize. But at home workouts should be based on where you're currently at and what equipment you have available. Don't be afraid to do a lot of sets of one exercise. When I first started working out and I didn't have access to a lot of equipment, I very commonly would do a 10 by 10. That's right, 10 sets of 10, and I would try to rest between 60 and 90 seconds per set. So even though I only had a flat bench, I would do 10 sets of 10 on the flat bench. This really helped me progress over time, and I would change it up, sometimes doing a 5 by 5, 5 sets of 5 with a little more weight and a little more rest. So it depends what you have access to, but the key is that you're consistent with it. How much creatine is too much? So creatine is a very interesting substance because it doesn't act acutely, meaning if you ingest some creatine right now, it's not going to impact you right away, right? Sometimes you guys might get a pre-workout, something with some caffeine. You take it in and you feel like you're going Super Saiyan, right? Dragon Ball Z reference. Hope you guys get that. But the idea is that it's not going to act like that. Creatine does not act on your body right away. What it does is it goes through the digestive system and it goes to your muscle cells. And over the course of a couple days, it will expand the cell volume in your muscle cells, meaning you want to saturate those muscle cells. Now, typically what I suggest to my clients, for men, 5 grams a day is going to get you where you need to get. For women that are a little bit smaller, 3 grams a day. Now, sometimes you'll hear about people doing loading phases. I've never really found the benefit to that. It puts a lot of stress on your kidneys. It wastes a lot of money. And it's only going to be a couple extra days till you saturate those stores. Once you've been on it for about 7 to 10 days, you're going to max out those stores. So about 3 to 5 grams a day is going to keep you there. Also remember, if your diet is high in red meat, you might be getting a decent amount of creatine already. And if you never eat red meat, you might find out that creatine is a super supplement. Why do people take steroids? Well, this is kind of a philosophical question, and I'm going to tell you where I come from, the era that I come from, and maybe your teacher, Miss Jenkins. It was kind of pounded into our heads that steroids were going to kill you. They were terrible for you, and they were for cheaters. We've come a long way since then, okay? Steroids are actually a miracle drug. They're used in science and research to help people that have some real conditions that they wouldn't otherwise be able to survive without. My best friend had double testicular cancer, so he is on testosterone injections for the rest of his life just to have normal amounts of testosterone because his body no longer produces it. Guess what? That is steroids. He is technically on steroids. And so that term can be used for a lot of things. When someone asks me about steroids, what I think is when it's used for bodybuilding purposes. If you're using it for health purposes through your doctor, that is obviously going to be very necessary. Why do people use steroids for the purposes of bodybuilding? It facilitates muscle growth at a faster rate. It also can help you make gains and muscular gains and strength gains that you wouldn't be able to obtain naturally. Now, I am a 48-year-old lifetime natural bodybuilder, okay? I've never used exogenous hormones such as testosterone or any of those derivatives to build muscle, and it's taken me 30 years to look like this. I'm happy. But some people are not happy with the progress they are making. Some people have body dysmorphia. Some people have aspirations of just wanting to be more muscular than the person that's next to them or that they could possibly be natural. I think we live in an era now where we shouldn't judge that, okay? We're now allowing for people to walk in all walks of life. You know, you guys are the generation where kind of even gender differences are kind of being blurred. And, you know, I grew up in the boy-girl era. That's kind of gone. So I think when we think of steroids in that terms, if someone chooses to do something to their body that's not hurting us, I don't think that's a problem. And so people use steroids because they work, right? They do have some positive impacts on the physique, but there's also some negative health consequences, right? They haven't been around for that long, and we're still learning how they impact things like the heart and other organs in the body. It can also speed up aging. It can make your age appear older than you are. I've seen some people regret it. Females that take male hormones might also have some male transformation things, including deepening of the voice and facial hair. So there are some consequences to taking these. So you have to understand what you're doing. Make sure you speak to somebody before you do this. But yeah, that's why they take them. I mean, they're performance enhancing for a reason. They're going to improve your performance, but at what cost? Okay. I tend to be someone that thinks long term. What am I doing now to improve my life later? For me, the idea of taking steroids never really entered the equation for me, wanting to be better than I am now. I always thought that I enjoyed the process of training hard and putting on muscle naturally, but that's a decision that everyone's going to have to make for themselves. Why do people dirty bulk? Well, I can tell you from my experience when I was younger, the reason I dirty bulked is because A, it was really fun. It was really fun to go to Taco Bell after a workout and get 10 tacos, get to my house and make an ice cream smoothie. And honestly, like, it was very hard for me to gain weight at a young age. You guys, you see me now, I have a decent amount of muscle on me, but again, I'm, 70 pounds heavier, 60, 70 pounds heavier than I was when I graduated high school. So I think when you're young, you carry a lot of that trauma with you. And I was called skinny for a lot of my life. Even though I was a baseball player in college on scholarship, I still carried around that trauma of being called, my nickname was Bucko5 because everybody thought I weighed 105 pounds, or the human coat hanger. Those kind of things that, kids say, or your friends and family say when you're young and they tease you, they stick with you. And I think for me, dirty bulking was the first time in my life that I actually felt like a big guy, right? I was 6'3", 250 pounds. but I also had a round face and a belly. So yeah, I'm a little happier now in my current physique. So I won't be dirty bulking ever again. What are my max lifts? So actually I got into powerlifting a few years ago. My friend Lane was competing in powerlifting and I was training with him very frequently. And I thought, you know what, let me give this a try. So I'm not very strong in terms of powerlifting, but I got very strong in terms of what I thought I would ever possibly be able to do. My best ever squat was 415 pounds, which is not very good. My best ever bench was 400 pounds, which was actually pretty decent. And my best ever deadlift was 550 pounds, okay? Those are all raw, which means I wasn't wearing any kind of suit or anything. And those are all competition lifts where I actually, like the bench, I had to pause and then press. And here's the beautiful thing. All that is on YouTube. I've been doing YouTube since, I think, 16 years now. All right, this is a pretty straightforward question with not a straightforward answer. Best way to lose body fat. Guys, talk to Miss Jenkins about this. I'm going to tell you exactly the best ways to lose body fat. You got to do two things. You got to be accountable to how many calories you're taking in. Yeah. Use an app. Just start plugging it in. You can plug in restaurant foods. Guys, we didn't have this stuff when I was around. When I first started dieting, I had to do this on an Excel spreadsheet, right? I had to look up the food values. Thank goodness the internet was around by then, because the internet wasn't even around when I was in college. Yeah, that's how old I am. So the idea here is you're going to learn where your caloric intake is, and you're going to be consistent with that. And then you're going to figure out how much movement you do throughout the day. And if you're not losing weight, guess what? You're not in a deficit. You are maintaining. So you have to adjust either your caloric expenditure throughout the day, your movement, or you can increase or decrease the calories based on your needs. So the best way to lose body fat is to use your diet and your daily activity to create a caloric deficit. It can be pretty straightforward and pretty easy when you just start to be accountable and examine what you're actually doing. Most people just don't want to hear that. Most people just want to be told it's one simple thing. Listen, if I had to tell you to do one thing, it would be to move more. When you're young, you should move. You should be getting 15, 20,000 steps a day. You should be super active, okay? Because there's going to come a time when you got a job, you got a significant other, you got a kid, and all those things take up your time, and it ain't your time anymore, okay? So you got to do things when you can and fit them in. And while you're young, if it's important to you to look good and feel good, make your health a priority now. What is the healthiest protein source? Man, this is a great question. What is the healthiest protein source? Well, I like to look at this as what is healthy, first of all. I think if we're defining healthy, it's the most nutrition that you can get from a single ingredient item. Actually, if you're talking about bang for your buck, it's milk or it's whey protein. Okay, the protein derived from milk is complete protein. And if you're talking about milk, it's also got some fats in there. Now, if you don't like milk, I get that. I used to drink a ton of milk when I was young, but whey protein actually has the most bang for your buck as far as how much protein versus how much calories. Okay, now protein sources can provide a lot of value. If you're talking about eggs, you're talking about chicken, you're talking about, lean protein like steak and pork and things like this, they have a lot of value. Your vegan or vegetarian sources of protein can be problematic because they are missing some of the key ingredients, protein, some of the key amino acids, but you can supplement with those. But if you just want to keep it simple, just focus on a good whey protein supplement, and that's going to really help fill your protein needs without a ton of calories. All right, I think I'm going to end here. And if you guys are enjoying this, you have to tell me, Miriam, if this has been a good exercise. I'll keep the rest of these questions here. But the last question I'm going to ask there is, what does creatine do for you? Creatine has been around. It was one of the first supplements that I remember hearing so much about. I actually took it in college for the first time. And I was on the baseball team at the time. And there was a drug testing policy because I was an NCAA pitcher. And so I remember someone gave me a tub of a product called Muscle Tech, which was creatine monohydrate mixed with dextrose, which is just a fancy form of sugar. And so someone gave me this container and I started just taking one scoop of it, which was pretty considerable back then, before every workout. Within a week, I had gained like 7 pounds and I had added I think I could bench 225 for like 3. And I think after a week or two, I could bench 225 for 6. So a lot of progress in a short amount of time. And the scale was up and I could see more muscle fullness. I'll explain why it wasn't necessarily just the creatine at that time. I actually brought it into my coach and said, Coach, am I allowed to take this? Because I was concerned. Turns out it was just creatine and sugar. Now, what does creatine do? Creatine is absorbed in the muscle cells, helps our muscles produce more ATP, which is energy, So it makes your workouts better. You have more endurance and more power during your workouts. What translates to building more muscle over time is training volume. Training volume is simply sets times reps times weight. If you can handle more weight for more reps during the same amount of sets, your training volume increases. So creatine actually allows you to perform better, and it's going to help you recover and get better as an athlete and as a lifter. So it's got some positive impacts on the body almost immediately within a week or two. Now, when I first started taking it, the reason I realized it was having such an impact on me when I looked back, the dextrose was actually 70 grams of sugar. Now, remember what I told you before? I was playing baseball and basketball in college. I was on my feet all day. I was walking around campus. I was probably far under my calorie intake needs. All of a sudden, I started taking in creatine and 70 grams of sugar or 70 grams of carbohydrates pre-workout. So that pre-workout fuel was making my workouts better, my recovery better. And also, guess what you have to do when you take creatine? You have to drink more water because the body stores more water in the muscles. So yeah, creatine, the number one best supplement. It's cheap, it's affordable, it's effective, and it works. So get you guys some creatine. Hopefully you guys enjoyed these questions and answers. I'd love to hear back from you if you did. Comment below, guys, if you're in Miss Jenkins' class, and I'll talk to you guys soon.